Hey fellow animators, I am Milos Cherny. Let's say you have received this model from a client just now and you need to rig it. Or maybe you just want to rig it for fun, whatever. But what do we need to think about first? It's always nice to first just sit down, look at the model and think about what we are doing and how we are going to do things. And basically sort out your thoughts. I will show you what I usually do. But before we start, I would like to first talk for a second about what we as riggers and animators do here. Everybody knows that in a real world, animals and humans have a lot of bones in their bodies. We always try to replicate this fact, but in the same time reduce the number of bones to bare minimum, for several reasons. First, you have to skin every bone, so with redundant bones you would create a lot of work for yourself. And of course, after you have skinned the bones, you still have to animate them. More bones equals more things to animate. And also, there are things like game engines, computing power required for each bone if you are doing a game character, and so on. So it's pretty obvious that we want to have as few bones as possible for every creature we do, but still keep the necessary ones, so we are able to create the animations we need. Okay, let's take a look at this model in particular. The model, same as this rendered image, was done by Oscar Ivan Jimenez, and without him this video would not be possible. You should check out his ArtStation for other great stuff. One thing you should keep in mind every time you are rigging something is that every good creature design, no matter how crazy it is, comes from something that already exists, anatomically speaking. When you ask any character artist, one of the first advices he will give you is that you have to learn and think about bone structures, muscle structures and overall anatomy of the creatures. Same applies for us when we are rigging something. For example here, you can see that these arms are similar to human arms. They have 4 fingers, but everything else is similar. Upper arm, forearm, even the hand. Tail is similar to a lizard or a dinosaur, which means it will not be so agile like cats is, for example. The legs are obviously similar to chicken legs, and so on. You get the point. So with all that in mind, let's start with thinking where we will place the pelvis. It's the first bone and parent of everything, so that's a good place to start. Maybe somewhere here. It should be more in the upper section of the body, not in the middle. Remember, you will have legs going down from pelvis. Okay, now let's start with the easier parts first. Tail is pretty simple. It's quite long, so I think I will use 6 bones, but we can always change that when we actually start working on the model. We can make them shorter as they go further, because the area around the pelvis will be stiffer, and it will soften up as we move to the tip of the tail. Chest should be somewhere where the front arms end. It will probably also need a bit of a rotation because of the way the neck and head is modeled. Head is already in its almost highest state possible, so we need to acknowledge that. Spine is pretty simple. I am thinking 2 bones will be enough. Now for the back leg, how many bones do we need? As I said before, it's obviously similar to a chicken. So let's find out how many bones do the birds have. You should do a research like this for everything, unless you already know the basic anatomy of the real animals. Quick Google search will show you that probably every bird has 3 bones in its legs, and the part that is touching the ground are just fingers. So let's do something similar. Bone 1, bone 2, bone 3. However, we can see that this model doesn't have only fingers touching the ground, but there is a foot as well. So we will probably need another bone between the fingers and the ankle. Front arm should be easy. It's basically humans, like I mentioned. Forearm will be a bit shorter, but other than that, it's a human arm with 4 fingers. Now the neck and head will be a bit of an issue. The head is modeled in one of its extremes already. If he would want to eat from the ground, for example, there is a huge distance the neck needs to overcome to reach the ground. But on the other hand, there isn't a lot of room for it to move backwards. Which means the way the head and neck could be modeled is in a more neutral pose, where the distance from moving down and up would not be so different. But this model was meant for static render only, so we need to deal with it ourselves. Okay, let's start with placing a pivot for the head bone first. It should be somewhere in the middle of the neck, so it can rotate both ways without a lot of deformations. With that placed, I am thinking 3 bones for the neck will be enough. We don't want them to have pivots exactly where these metal parts are, because it would deform them, so I am placing the pivots in between them. All the upper part will be weighted on the head bone, and with that done, we have a pretty good idea how will the main parts move and deform. Now let's take a look at the props we have here. There is quite a lot of them, so we will probably need a lot of additional bones. We want to have the seat separated, for example, so it can jump a little as the creature moves. We have to think about where will we link the bones. These will be linked to the spine. Also, for the saddle pad, we will probably need 3 bones, one for pelvis, one for one spine and one for the other. For this clothed part here, we can place one bone in the corner, so it can wiggle a bit. One should be enough, we will see. We can also separate these straps, so they can move. We will need bones for each of them going around the body. Same thing with these small chains. This is not a game model, so we don't have to care for number of bones that much. But as I said at the beginning, we still need to animate them after, so keep them at a reasonable amount. The feathers on top can be probably split into several groups, but each of them will need at least 3 bones, so we are able to bend them nicely. Okay, let's keep it at that for now. The model has some additional props on the other side as well, but I wanted to keep it simple. There will still be a lot of details to solve when we actually start with the rigging, and maybe even some big changes. But you can probably see that even just by doing this simple analysis, you can realize what will be the main problems and areas that you should focus on. It helps to plan things ahead, or at least think about them. This way, you can maybe find some parts that should be remodeled completely, before you even start. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more stuff like this, support me on Patreon or with any other way you would prefer. Don't forget to share, like and leave some comments. Thank you. I am Miloš Černý and thank you for watching.